Welcome to I Heart Geek.
And welcome to another episode of I Heart Geek. We are doing the Cornetto Trilogy, or as Christina likes to say, what is it?
It's the Blood and Ice Cream Trilogy.
Okay.
Ice cream.
This we are going to be talking about three movies that on the surface are not a trilogy, but when you dig it a little deeper, it is definitely one of the greatest trilogies ever made. And these three movies in the trilogy are Shaun of the Dead, At World's End, and Hot Fuzz. These are all directed by Edgar Wright, starring, among other people, but the main two are Simon Pegg and Nick Frost.
Yes.
Huh. Okay, before I do my introduction, I even did a commercial for this, and this is important. Today's episode is brought to you by the brilliant sitcom Spaced. Please do yourself a favor. It's on Amazon Prime. Watch it. It is brilliant. And if it wasn't, and Edgar Wright directed those, and Simon Pegg and Nick Frost and everybody that you've seen in these movies are in that sitcom as well. And it is beyond brilliant. And it is like the most 90s thing to ever 90s. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. Wow. As long as I've ever talked without you guys like interrupting. This is awesome. Okay. Let me introduce the panelists, and this will be the last time that I get to talk without being interrupted, which is awesome. Let's start out with Mr. Chris Giorgetti. How are you doing, bud?
Yarp.
Outstanding. We have Mr. Tyler Romine. How you doing, bud?
Doing good. I don't have red on me.
We have Miss Christina. How you doing?
I'm ready to let's boo-boo.
You want to boo-boo?
Yeah,
Well, that means
boo-boo.
you're going to leave.
No, it means I'm going to drink.
Oh. You missed that episode. And then finally, we have Miss Michelle. How are you doing today?
Excellent. I got my cranberry juice, so I'm ready.
Yeah. I'll have a cranberry and nothing
Yes.
else. Or a water. You're going to have to be the one guy with the water and the beer.
Yeah.
So these are all inside jokes. You guys should watch these movies before you watch this episode, because you're not going to get...
Yes.
Highly recommended.
At the minimum, watch Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead, I think. I'm thinking. Okay, so what was your guys' first introduction to the trilogy? I don't think anybody started out on the same one, because none of them you really need to watch first.
I think I watched Shaun of the Dead first years ago, and I got hooked.
Outstanding.
Yeah, that was my first one.
Christina?
My Sean actually found it, and he made me watch it. I had no idea what it was about, but it was the name. It's spelled like his. We have to watch this just because they spelled the name right. And I laughed and I laughed, and I watched it like 4 or 5 times with my friends. Oh, you got to see this! You got to see this! And then it just was, snowballed from there.
Outstanding. Tyler?
Oh, I'm the zombie guy. You know who
Well, yeah, we know what you watched first.
is Shaun of the Dead, for sure.
Chris?
I first saw Shaun of the Dead in 2004 when it came out, which by my calculations, I was still a wee lad in high school. So,
Wee lad.
yeah, there's to this day, there's only one scene in Shaun of the Dead that still freaks me out, but that's...
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to answer your question, 2004.
2004, outstanding. Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of jump into it. These movies have this amazing chemistry between Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, and the brilliant direction of Edgar Wright, who later went on to do one of my favorite movies, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. If you've listened to this show for any amount of time, you know that is my favorite movie. Quick cuts and just he directs like it's a comic book. And I really wish I would have seen what he would have done with Ant-Man instead, even though Ant-Man was good, but I wanted to see what he would have done with it. Anyway, so let's talk about kind of some of the brilliance of their chemistry. I think that Simon Pegg is just a natural born leader on screen. There's something about him that no matter what part he's playing, he is the leader of the group.
Yeah, I would say so.
yeah. And I think I'm gonna disagree though, because
Okay.
we'll probably get into it a little bit more, but I think less so on World's End.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same
I
thing.
wasn't too keen on his role in World's End.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but you talk about Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. Yeah, that's where him and Nick Frost work so well together.
Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz are Nick Frost's and Simon Pegg's movies. Like they are the stars, hands down. Whereas At World's End is more of an ensemble piece, and he's kind of in the background, and it's more Patty Considine and Martin Freeman.
But don't you feel like I felt like at World's End, it was almost a role reversal between
Very much.
him and Nick Frost, and
Absolutely.
I don't think that to me that just made me uncomfortable. To work
Well,
very
they all
for
did
me.
such a fantastic job of every movie. They're not playing the same character. In fact, they're very, very
No.
different every single movie.
Yeah.
No, that's true. I think it's just that dynamic. It just, I don't know, with those two, it just works. It works better, in my opinion, when Nick Frost is kind of I don't know.
Well, I think the thing that makes you uncomfortable too is that Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, especially in Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, they are the ultimate bromance.
Mm-hmm.
And then they come in with The World's End, and it's this angsty, troubled friendship versus being that ultimate bromance. Because even in Hot Fuzz, where they just met each other, it's like this. And
because it was like they were on a date, when they were they went out drinking and go to his house for a movie. It was like, aw.
And I think being friends in real life, like they are, really comes through on camera.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They pick up on each other's cues and stuff real nicely.
No, I feel like these guys have and deserve every bit of credit that Jay and Silent Bob have. That even like classical, like Abbott and Costello and Laurel and Hardy, I think they have that kind of chemistry, and it doesn't come across very often.
I kept thinking David Spade and Chris Farley.
Yeah,
you can see a little bit of that.
I was gonna say like Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, like it's that kind of like relationship. Connection.
They're married. They are married. No, I mean not in real life, but they are.
I mean, they might as well be because they work so well together.
And I'm not talking about Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara. I'm talking those two. Their careers are always going to be married because they are both fantastic on their own. We've all seen them and stuff on their own. They are so much better together.
Yeah.
And I think that the Edgar Wright thing, I think he understands that better than anybody. And because he is the third stooge in it, honestly. They know how to work together on that. I'm getting a lot of classic comedy references here.
No.
Okay, so this is the part that I think was looking forward to in the conversation the most. I feel like the Cornetto Trilogy is the absolute ultimate representation of the British side of Generation X. Do you guys have any thoughts on this?
I do.
Fire away, Chris.
That's
That's my favorite.
There it is.
Yeah, I love it.
So, being the baby of the group, because, I'm not a Gen X person, I'm going to yield my portion of the time to you all and just listen to this lovely discussion.
Now,
take it away.
You went through all that. You went
What's
through
he
all
gonna
that
say?
to say, and I don't want to talk about it.
Well, I have no idea what it's like to be a Gen Xer because, I grew up in the 90s under helicopter parents, but that's a story for my therapist. But this isn't therapy. This is a podcast.
You have your own show for that. Georgetti on Ice.
Yes. On the next episode, helicopter parents.
Yes.
Also, yeah, I mean, Gen Xers, we're kind of like the forgotten generation.
Completely.
We're latchkey kids, left on our own, to
We
our own
raised ourselves.
devices. We raised ourselves pretty much.
Which explains when you
started
see
working at 14.
And a lot of us
younger,
had the younger siblings we were taking care of, and so throughout these movies, you see all these traits, all these characters, like stereotypes almost that. How it was growing up to be a Gen Xer with the video games and just lazing around, but then as true to form. We're called lazy, but we're also called hardworking. It's like this interesting,
Dichotomy. Yeah.
yeah, like when what goes down, like we're ready to
Yeah.
stand up and fix it and do all things. So like that comes out in all three of these movies. Obviously, World's End is like the quintessential Gen
Grew
X
up, yeah.
midlife crisis. Yeah. And it was funny because when I rewatched Shaun of the Dead, it just reminded me so much of things that people were saying, like when COVID hit and Gen Xers were supposedly going to be like, the only generation left because we're like, yeah, we'll sit
Yeah.
inside, we'll do what we got to do, we don't care, and everyone else is like, ah.
That's
So-
because we played Oregon Trail. We know how this ends.
Oh yeah, we're not
Dysentery.
stupid.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We're all gonna die. We're staying home.
Well, I think there's one scene that in Shaun of the Dead that it is like the most Generation X thing. We're gonna go fight the zombies. So what do we have? Records. We love Gen X has the weirdest obsession with music. I'm one of them, and they're going through their records, deciding, this might save my life, but let's not throw the Prince. We can throw away the. We can throw away this and this and this, but there's certain things we're not going to throw away. It doesn't matter. It's a first pressing, and that is kind of the Generation X stereotype.
A bit of optimism
Absolutely.
in a dire situation.
Always,
They're
Yeah,
going to be
well-
around. We need these records.
we're cockroaches. Yes.
Yeah, we had a whole conversation about what albums would we throw away from that scene, because we have a pretty substantial collection. And I was like, well, I'm not getting rid of this. I'm not getting rid of this. This one's never been opened. So
You want to know another Generation X trait? And I'm getting on my soapbox here, but the fact that Gen Xers always want to work with their friends. If you look at all three of these movies, everybody is their friends. That's why they're in all three of them. The extras, I don't know if you noticed, but the extras in all the movies are pretty much the exact same people.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, the opening scene at World's End, when it comes out and she's sharing with a group. You look to his left, you look to his right. Those are the two zombies that were in his backyard that they were throwing the records at.
yes.
They keep their cast all in the family. I was listening to some of the commentary on all three films, but also you have to notice that Great Britain only has like 20 actors to begin with, so it's of course you're going to get the same 5 people in all British things. That was my bad joke of the night. So there you go, America.
That was such a millennial thing to say.
Oh, it's such millennial.
I'm gonna
yeah.
jump in here and I'm gonna take credit for it now. Okay. Wow. Okay. No more picking on Chris. He doesn't deserve it. It's not his fault. He was born.
Sometimes
when
I
he was born.
do.
Well, yeah.
Sometimes I deserve it, but
Nothing
I
like
appreciate it.
alienating half your audience.
We do it with love.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's another Gen X trait.
No,
Right.
honestly,
Sweet.
the sarcasm. You have to kind of understand Gen X to understand the sarcasm that's in those movies.
Yeah.
'Cause it's never mean spirited. They say rotten things to each other, but it's never mean spirited. It's like if you didn't love somebody, you're not going to insult them.
Yeah, you know where it comes from. And if it doesn't come from that, you also really know.
Yeah.
So there's no confusion. What I loved is, especially in World's End where, it's this whole idea. And in fact, he even says it in the bathroom scene about how, we're the coolest generation and we were cooler, he's talking to the younger kid. Well, kid.
And angry about it, yeah.
Yeah, like we were the cool guys. You don't even know how cool we are. Like, oh my God, I've said that to my little sister. She's a millennial. She loves it.
Like, you just don't even understand.
I know.
And the way
We made it cool for you.
and the way they stereotypically label the millennials too. That every millennial in all of these movies wears the track jumpsuit with the hoodie going up, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of a stereotype. I gotcha. And that was honestly when I went in the Navy and I started seeing people that were younger than me that were, they're not they're not one of us anymore. And that's what they were wearing. And I'm like, okay. And I so related to that in the weirdest way when watching these movies. I'm like, yeah, I hate them too. You know, I don't hate millennials, but that was, that was,
We don't hate.
Careful
they
there,
make you-
Dub.
no, they make
Yeah.
you think about, they make you think that they take the worst and best of, you know, a group of people without being rotten about it. It's like, yeah, he's wearing a jumpsuit. That's douchey. We're done. You know. And then
No,
they come-
another. Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was just my mind went off. But you know, another part of these movies is all of them kind of envelop all these things that Gen Xers grew up with, as far as like the music, the movies, the technology, everything that we kind of watched, you know, go forward, is all of that's present in these movies as well. Just kind of what makes
Yeah.
the generation how they are. But these guys portray it like absolutely perfectly. It comes
Yeah,
across
I
perfectly.
kind of want to talk about music, but I don't know if we should wait for the breakdown of the individual movies, because it does have very much a overreaching arc through the music in all of them. That it just the catchiest, poppiest, low tech music in the world, and I
And
don't
you
know
fall
why.
in love with
You
it.
fall in love with it. It's so
You fall in
simple.
love with it.
As I say, it's grunge without the distortion.
The scene in Shaun of the Dead where they're beating up the zombies around the pool table listening to Queen is what got me into Queen.
Really?
Nice.
'cause-
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
But to
'Cause-
be, Wayne's World did
because-
that for me.
Because, like, let's see, 2004, I was like, I don't know, 16.
Yeah.
Yeah,
8.
basically.
Diapers.
Yeah, that's when I was starting to like get into like good rock music, like The Who, The Beatles, Queen, Bruce, and more Bruce.
Don't.
I knew that was coming.
Don't make me do it. Don't make me do it. I'm gonna hurt you. Don't make me do it. I'm gonna make you cry again, Chris.
It's okay. I can take it.
Is that what we sound like
make-
in the drunk tank too? Sorry. Oh yeah, he's got a
come on.
DUI. He
Don't
sucks.
make me pull out
Sorry.
Satomi.
Oh,
Wait,
it's
you're
okay.
both pretty.
We'll both do it. It's all good.
Pulling out the big
This-
guns now.
This conversation just went in a really weird way, really fast.
We somehow weaponized a cast member.
I mean, I was just
Don't make me pull into Tony.
I was just sharing my love of Queen and how this movie introduced me to Queen, and then I was telling you my musical interests, and then Dub had to be Dub, and
And you said
You
it
were
not only
attacked.
once. When I didn't take the bait, because I was like, I'm not going to take the bait, and then
Yeah.
you did it again. No,
I mean,
I know, because
Then
it's
you did it
funny.
again. I'm like, mm,
You kind of did keep casting that line.
yeah.
Just a little.
I know. Because
So back
You
to
know-
Queen.
anyway,
Back to good music with
The-
people
the
that can
music's-
sing. Not no talent hacks. I got you. Go ahead.
Oh, no.
Wow, I'm being rotten today.
Wow.
This is
Today?
on you, Chris. This is on you. This is your fault.
I know.
I expect an apology on George 80 on Ice about it too.
Yes, I am writing it down now for my script. Apologize to Dub on air.
I love it. Okay, so Queen. No, this is it was just such a. I've actually went back and discovered a lot of cool music from listening to these soundtracks. I've got every one of these soundtracks on Spotify because they are just. It's a lot of music I hadn't heard before, but it is just really cool. And they kept the spirit of Gen X without throwing in Nirvana or the Seattle scene or Ween or
Yeah, they didn't even have to pull any of that.
they put in new stuff, but it's so fit, and that's its own art form, I think.
Yeah, new classics.
Okay, so now I want to do a quick discussion, and we're going to kind of go through all the movies individually. And as we go through, I want to kind of talk about how they intertwine with the other movies. So I wanted to start, and I'm doing this. Okay, and by the way, I have to say this: John from California did suggest this topic, and he wasn't able to be on. So I'm making him mad right now because he wanted me to do these chronologically, but there's a reason I'm not. We're doing Shaun of the Dead, At World's End, and then Hot Fuzz. And I did that because I put the stronger of the two movies on the ends, and we can argue about that in a minute.
Wow. Yeah, we're gonna argue.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay, that's nothing wrong with that. But so let's start with my personal, one of my two favorites is Shaun of the Dead. The way that this movie came in as just a, I want to say it's almost like a coming of age movie in the beginning. It's like, okay, lovable loser, he lost his girlfriend. Okay, and if you want to keep writing this movie, he's gonna eventually win the girl back, and he's gonna grow up, and they'll all be better people. And then they twist, just like all these movies, they drop you on your ear and say, okay, no, it's gonna be zombies. I thought that was a neat way that they did that. It wasn't what you expect if you don't know what you're walking into, if that makes sense.
Well, like, how do you take a movie that makes you laugh until you almost pee?
Almost.
Fill it with gruesome horror and then break your heart in moments. Like, that is such a unique power to have. And I'll be straight honest, every time it's the mom scene, Simon Pegg breaks my heart.
I know, like, he is just broken down.
So much power in that. But then he turns around, and then you have these moments where you're just laughing so hard you can't breathe. Like, it's genius.
They did such a great job of not making the moments that make you sad go on long enough that you can't enjoy the rest. Because I hate being mopey through a movie because I'm like, yeah, I'm an ugly crier. I don't want that. I want to laugh.
Yeah, they pull it back really, really well and quick too. So, but you get that. Gosh, the emotion comes through so big on that scene. It kills me. But I mean, I think the whole movie, start to finish, the writing's brilliant, the acting's brilliant, the jokes are brilliant. They're just like, they're on. Some stuff too, which I think in all of these movies, if you don't pay attention
there's
what they're saying, you're gonna miss like some brilliant stuff.
And it's British, so use your subtitles.
Yeah. I just like the fact that, these guys are just these slacker, dudes who kind of just sit and play video games, and you wouldn't think they'd be the heroes. And like in Gen X fashion, they rise up and they're the heroes.
I do love that their answer was get to the Winchester. I've always said if there's a zombie attack, I'm going to go to Costco because it's got everything I need, and you need a membership to get in, so I should be safe from zombies.
You can it's all on lockdown. You put the metal things down, and you're done. You're good.
Now, Tyler, as our resident zombie expert, what's your take on the zombie side of this?
Oh, it's done well. It's done great. It was a bit of a, I believe John had referenced in a previous episode, a love letter to past zombie movies. You see the influences from stuff like Day of the Dead and just a lot of Romero style. No, I loved it as far as keeping it slow zombies. So the zombies didn't become too much, too distracting.
Yes,
and they didn't turn like that.
Right. It took a minute.
Build up.
I probably wouldn't have gone to a bar, but if that's the only gun in town, okay.
Well, they are in England, so yeah.
But yeah, I love that whole aspect as far as paying homage to movies of the past.
So, go ahead.
It's very the pacing of the movie is excellent because like you get right away that it's a comedy, and then they like slowly give you these little breadcrumbs of this is a serious horror movie.
And they ease you into it.
Yeah, except for this one scene where the one guy who gets like his insides open, that's the one scene that still makes me queasy to this day.
And be honest, you were kind of happy when it happened to him because
he deserved it.
Oh, he definitely deserved it. He totally deserved it.
But it's cringy.
Yeah.
That part's hard to watch.
If anything, this movie, in addition to expanding my musical, taste, it helped me get into like horror movies a little bit because it had the jokes, to kind of it's like training wheels to
Well,
watch other gruesome
Horror
horror
light.
movies.
you know that actually that training wheels is a great analogy because, and I want to throw this in the first scene that you really see the zombies when they're in the backyard and they push the girl and then she falls down and the table goes through her, and that's kind of gruesome and kind of scary, but it was training wheels. It was, but they also made it kind of funny at the same
Because
time
she gets up and there's this
because she gets up
hole.
and there's a hole.
And you can see him through it, like, oh, God.
But it was training wheels. Like, okay, well, it's going to start getting a little scarier now, and it does. It starts getting a little bit worse. And I, you know, as a non-horror guy, I actually kind of appreciated that. It was like, you know, dipping your toe in before you jump all the way in the water.
You get that, and then you get the total ridiculousness where they're just throwing random household goods at these like
The
cans and
laundry
pillows
basket.
Hey, it was their
Which
training
is a-
session.
Which
But
is
it was just-
definitely a theme later too.
Yeah, and just the fact and and so and it was all to the music, and it was just all very like synced, you know, it was awesome. But yeah.
I also loved in Shaun of the Dead when Bill Nye dies and becomes a zombie, and you know they're blasting rock music in his Jag, like
And
he like reaches over to turn it off, and it's just like you have those like heartbreaking moments where he has like that, you know, I
With
could
the
have been a
levity,
better, yeah, it's perfectly, there's a perfect balance between
Yeah.
you know, gruesome horror and comedy.
Well, and the joke went along perfectly with it when he's like, "There's nothing left of your husband in there," and it was so passionate and dramatic, and you see him just kind of reach over it, and they're like, "Well, okay, maybe there's a little bit."
Yeah.
It's just
Always
funny.
a little tinge of somebody left behind.
Now,
Yeah.
now something I want to talk about. If you watch Space, you will get the brilliance of this. But the other group that they meet up with in the beginning and the end, with the girl. Now, if you watch Space, that was his roommate in the show Spaced, and it was the whole show was about him and her. And to see them back big screen together, it was absolutely brilliant. And it's an Easter egg. You guys don't need to know it, but you have a lot more appreciation afterwards. But I want to watch Shaun of the Dead .2, where they actually follow those guys around for the day. I don't
wow.
see
Yeah.
Martin Freeman doing his thing with the zombies.
Get the behind the scenes flip side of what was going on when Sean was busy.
Well, Sean was cowering. Let's be honest. This group was going out and kicking butt. You know, they
Sean
got a freaking
redeems
tank.
himself.
He does
Sean redeems himself.
at times.
But
Well,
but, you know,
and more of Sean's team survived. 'Cause
Right?
If you wait till
Exactly.
the end,
Yeah.
she was the only one left standing.
Her
Yep.
team was identical to his, so
Yeah.
And
And
there's-
Sean came back with 2.5 people.
there you go.
Player 2 has entered the game.
What's great about that is you don't even have to know the Easter egg to find it entertaining, because like you said, I think, Tyler, is that they were the exact same people walking by, essentially, even the girl with the hat, and so even
Yeah.
just in itself it was funny.
It
But
was hilarious.
Oh, and then I hated that. I hate the David character so much, and they did such a great job of making him just this horrendous douche. I mean,
Mhm.
The thing that's
who's
funny
in
is
love with Liz?
he's actually a hilarious comedian.
he is a black book, so you should check it out.
Yeah. So to see him in that character when I normally really liked him, I'm like, ew. Like,
Yeah,
you're just cringy.
but I say they have a lot of people in these
Yeah.
that you've seen before.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to actually no, before I do that. Okay, a similar theme that we see through these movies. It's not always exactly a happy ending. It's a happy-ish ending.
Yeah.
And all these movies are kind of similar in that manner, some more than others. But I think I would say this one's probably the saddest.
Oh,
But at
for
the
sure.
same time, they made it so it wasn't like, oh, he still has this.
But
but
it's
he's
sad,
not.
but it's like kind of sweet.
It
too.
wasn't the saddest for me. Definitely not. I think I disagree. So
We'll get
there
on to
it
that
is.
one.
There it is.
Nice.
And I think the other underlying theme that connects all three movies is the theme of having to grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, obviously he was experiencing the dangers of complacency. You know,
Mhm.
he's
Yeah.
stuck. He's a bump on a couch. Lost his girlfriend. You know, you see similar events in Hot Fuzz. Obviously, he didn't have much of a life in World's End, but all three movies, he's forced to grow up. You know, throughout the movie, and I
Well,
think
That's true.
for me, that's what makes it a trilogy.
Well, I
That's
think
Yeah.
good.
in
I think- go.
In Hot Fuzz, Simon Pegg's character, Nicholas Angel, he already has everything. So like for him, it's being, him
He's-
being sent away and learning how to just like be a normal person.
And being a mentor.
yeah.
Yes, and so for
But we
his
will get there
Yeah.
soon, I promise.
Oh
But
yeah.
he's got to
sorry.
learn. He's got to learn to switch it off. He can't
Yeah.
switch it off. You know, since
Can't.
age 5, he says he wanted to be a police officer. He was obsessed with it, and
I
it
love
was
it.
it was time to grow up and realize you can let loose a little.
Okay, let's jump on to At World's End. Sorry, I'm trying to keep these in order. I apologize.
the World's End.
The World's End.
At
Sorry, we
World's
were
End
trying to
is
actually go in order, but yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
pick it up for John.
now, this is a personal thing for me, and especially before this weekend, this was definitely my choice of. This is the bottom of the barrel. It's funny, but it's okay. It's kind of forgettable. That was my impression before this weekend. On the rewatch, I actually have to bite my tongue. It's still the weakest of the three, but it's not at all a negative thing because these three movies are so brilliant. I think this movie was a lot better than it was given credit for. I think that, the first movie was horror. This one, I'd probably call sci-fi.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And again, it starts out very mundane and very just, it's going to be a road comedy. It's going to be buddies going out National Lampoon. They're going to get drunk and hijinks. Yay. And then it flips out real quick.
There are so many genius moments. Gosh, I thought this one was hilarious. I saw a lot of He Doesn't Watch, So It's Okay, my brother in this. It took him a while to grow up, but especially the part where he's like, "Well, I think he's changing because he paid me back the 600 pound he owed me," and they're all like, "He borrowed 200 from each of them." That I just about died in that moment because that's something he would have done. So
Yeah. I didn't like it as much. For me, it was just missing like kind of the spark that the other two movies have, and I kind of chalk it up to the role reversal. I just didn't buy into Simon Pegg's character. I mean, I liked it because I always get teased that I'm stuck in the 90s and I can't let it go. But I mean, he took it to like a whole new level. I mean, so I appreciated that. I appreciated kind of the midlife crisis idea, but I don't know. It was just like, and then having the robots or whatever they were called. The theme of it almost mirrored Shaun of the Dead, but it just didn't quite work for me as much as the zombies did.
I think by sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think by the time World's End came out, everyone was kind of like
Over it
because in all three movies they use a lot of the same film techniques and plot points. Like there's that whole bit where they're jumping over the fence and it's like the exact same angle, which is brilliant in all three films. And they also they kind of telegraph what the movie's gonna be like in the first like 15-20 minutes. So I think the formula got stale. I mean, it's still a better conclusion to a trilogy than The Rise of Skywalker, but that's another
We're not
topic for
talking
another
about
day.
that. If you want to hear our thoughts on that, get behind the paywall. And we are on Patreon. We are doing every single Star Wars movie. You're welcome.
but like Michelle said, it was okay, enjoyable, but it didn't like blow my mind.
I
felt
feel
almost
like what made it.
sorry.
Go ahead, Tyler.
I feel like what kind of made it weak was the fact that it was so much so fast compared to the other ones. The other ones took their time. Everything's real subtle. This one, they just kind of threw it
in your
right
face.
And for me, it was the ending. It was that the bromance wasn't there. Like he was like, I don't know which way he went. He went his own way, and I
think that was a bad choice.
That was a horrible choice because you really didn't see. I mean, he's back with the younger blank versions of himself. He never grew up. Like there wasn't that arc that we're used to seeing in these great movies. And the fact that he's like, I don't know where he is, and this is how I am now. That killed me a little bit because, you know, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are so brilliant. And I was okay with Nick Frost being more the leader if they would have developed that more. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they just left us hanging.
I agree.
Let me say a thought that I have on that. As far as the ending goes on this is the only movie that it doesn't have the two lead characters basically going off the sunset together. And I think this is Edgar Wright saying, it's over. This is the trilogy. We're done. And I feel like that's I think that might be why that happened. I don't know for sure, but I feel like that was a definite choice that was made.
It was just a bad one.
I mean, I think he kind of, you know, the Simon Pegg's character, I agree that the ending was just sort of like, what? That's not right. But
and fast.
Yeah. Well, and I think the whole film, the problem that I have too, or let's say additional problem I have with this movie is that the comedy, everything just sort of feels forced. It's like very fast and very forced. Like, this is funny, this is funny, this is funny. But you're just like, okay. Like, it just felt.
You're always trying to catch up.
Yeah. I'm like, wait, no, like this isn't what I'm used to from these guys. And yeah, I mean, but he did, I guess, get a chance to kind of come into his own where, you know, I think at the beginning he was just this total slacker and everything and kind of a loser. But then it's like at the end, it all comes together and he gets to be, you know, like the guy who goes out and
he got what he wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was
16 forever.
For yeah.
So, I mean, it kind of worked out
living the dream.
Yeah. I don't know.
So I want to throw out the two huge positives I see with this one, actually. This one actually is very, very rewatchable. Now, I know that we've all been crapping on it a little bit, but rewatch the movie, and it's better the second time. And I'm on my third viewing of it because, let's say, this one didn't do it for me. But I rewatched it, and now I'm rewatching it. I'm like, there's a lot of actually brilliance underneath it. The other thing I want to say is a huge bonus is this one has the best cinematography of any of them. And you can definitely see where the whole Scott Pilgrim side of things they always had the quick cuts, but I feel like they perfected it on this one. You know, the way they filmed it, the lighting, the realism, it just looks a lot better than the rest of the other movies.
I think it worked better just because of what this movie is about, the theme of it. I think the way they filmed Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz it worked for those movies. I think it was brilliant. But I do see the difference.
Sorry,
go ahead, Chris.
I didn't mean to step on your toes.
Okay.
It kind of felt like a discount Marvel movie at some point.
Shots fired
in a good way. In a good way, because you had like the robot alien things and the sci-fi effects. It felt like a discount Marvel movie, but it was actually funny. But you know
all of these and this is not saying as a negative, so I'll get the hate mail later. These are the movies that Kevin Smith always wants to make, but he's not quite good enough to. I love what Kevin Smith does, but this is what Kevin Smith wants to do that he can't. I mean, you watch Yoga Hosers. This is Yoga Hosers if Kevin Smith could have made it.
Being that Kevin Smith and I are from the great state of New Jersey, I will agree with you on that statement.
And I'm a huge as Kevin Smith fan.
Yeah. I mean, his movies are great, but you know, I agree with that.
Okay, so let's move on to arguably the greatest, Hot Fuzz. Just go.
It's the greatest movie ever made.
It's amazing.
Wow.
It's better than Citizen Kane. It's better than 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's better than Spartacus.
It's so much better than Bruce Springsteen.
You know what?
Whole career.
If Bruce Springsteen was a movie,
you know what?
This would be better than him.
You know what? If Bruce Springsteen was a movie, this would be better than Bruce Springsteen as a movie. Because
you just made my favorite list ever, just so you know that.
Like everything about this movie is just perfect. The script, the acting, the comedy, it is never not funny.
Right.
It's just
Oh.
everything about it is so enjoyable. Like I could easily watch this movie if I was on a deserted island and that was the only, DVD or Blu-ray I had, or, I'll go on better VHS if they had like a VHS player, because 90s and whatever. But it is truly a movie I will never ever get sick of.
Yeah.
I
Totally.
found the action to be the best.
Yeah.
The gunfights and everything were
Oh,
way
Yeah.
intense for what it was, for being a buddy cop comedy type of
the
murder mystery.
intentional one-liners, because it was an action movie.
Absolutely,
Brilliant.
yeah. And done so subtly, like the Brits can do so
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, if you don't
Yes.
pay attention, if you're not constantly paying attention to what
Uh-huh.
they're saying, you're gonna miss.
Which
Like,
we will hit in our main
Yeah, you're
event.
gonna
I'm
miss so
trying
many
not
jokes.
to. Yeah.
No, I know. But oh my gosh. And you know what I really love too is this movie has, so in Shaun of the Dead, we've got the love, the love interest, the connection there between him and Liz. But like here, the love interest is basically
The
you
job.
know,
The bromance.
it's those two. It's their little
Yeah.
bromance. Like you see it when they first meet, it's not on the best terms, but because he's arresting him for being drunk. But then they go, they go out drinking, and then they go back to Danny's place, and they're watching movies, and it's just this cute. They have like this moment where it's like all the feels start coming on,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, we're gonna be best friends. Like you just know it. They're just gonna be these best friends. So I love that's the love interest in this movie, is those two.
But
Yeah, especially when they point out how incapable he is of having a relationship. When Janine tells him,
Mhm.
when you can care about someone more than you care about the job. Fun fact, Kate Blanchett actually played Janine.
Mhm.
Didn't know that.
Yep, in that mask.
Awesome.
In that mask.
Awesome. Yeah.
No, but and I say this without a hint of irony. That buddy story is the friendship I think that every single person wants to have in their life with one person. It's not romantic. It's just that friendship.
That connection.
Yeah.
And I don't mean this in a bad way, but that's almost like a Gen Xer thing more so than other generations.
So
Because
tell us about it, millennial. Is that true? I'm sorry.
I'm just the baby boomers were used to just not getting attached. We didn't have we were the generation that we didn't have cell phones, but then we got them and we appreciated them and we used them. Like we kind of came through technology from almost the start all the way through. So we understand, like I have the same best friend I've had since 7th grade, and we had to work at that relationship. It's not like just a quick text. We had to work at that. And so I think that that's a part of what I really see in Hot Fuzz is that, he had to work at opening up who he was and not just be focused on the job and become a different person.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a good point, because we were the generation who sat on the phone for hours and talked and hung out and formed these lifelong connections and strong connections. Like we're the generation. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I'm just gonna say we are, because I'm gonna take it. But where we just started like hugging everybody. Like everything became a hug. Like I remember in high school, all of a sudden we're hugging each other, and that was just a thing. Like now, and
that led to some cross signals growing up.
Hey.
Oh, I just killed the room. That was a joke, guys.
Sorry.
Wow.
No, it is just, again, yeah, working at it, but watching them go through that, and then he's sharing his favorite movies, which is such a great love language anyway.
Yes.
But
Which one do you want to watch first?
Which one
That
do you
was
want to
great.
watch?
No, yeah, which one do you want to watch
first?
first?
That's why that relationship was so important, though. He was going downhill. I mean, he was the best cop you'd ever met, but it was ruining everything for him. He was, being sent off. He was showing everybody up. He was actually going downhill because he wasn't exactly doing better
Couldn't
in the
shut it
village
off.
either. He couldn't
Couldn't shut
switch
it
it
off.
off.
Switch it off.
His buddy there, he taught him how to switch it off.
Yeah,
Pull that stick out of your butt every once in a while and have some fun.
Yeah, so much so that's what he chose at the end, was to stay.
Yeah.
I
He
love
felt, he
that.
felt like he finally belonged somewhere.
Because you see in the beginning of the movie, Simon Pegg is like arresting people left and right, and he gets all these commendations for his like exemplary service, and then he tries to do what he did in London in this small little village, and then Jim Broadbent's character's like, "Oh, you sure you want to be doing that?" And you see them eating cake or whatever. So
Right,
it's just
as punishment.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it's funny.
Chunky monkey.
Okay, so we are going to move on to our listener feedback.
And now, let's see what all of our geek rock stars have to say.
Okay, so for today's listener feedback, we did what is your favorite of the Cornetto trilogy and why? And Michelle is going to read them for us today. Thank you for not making me do it.
All right, here we go. We've got Andy Trudell. I hope I pronounced that right. Andy says, Hot Fuzz. I enjoyed the mystery involved in the plot, and I felt that Nick Frost's character was not only funnier, but played a bigger role than the other two films. Yarp. And then next we have Mandy Cassidy. Says Shaun of the Dead, hands down. Although I enjoyed all three differently, I have to say Shaun of the Dead, the mock-up, the storyline, and the nostalgic old style Benny Hill and Fawlty Towers comes to mind. Hot Fuzz was more of a continuation in the buddy no matter what style comedy, with creepy town and odd stuff always happening. The Third World's End, or The World's End, was a little dull, with some funny spots, but a little rushed a touch. We agree, most of us. It had a fantastic comedy. Like all the rest, just was a bit darker and almost across a Rocky Horror Picture Show style.
That was an interesting take.
Yeah. Daniel Houston, why would you do this to me? less sigh. All out of love, Daniel. I love all three, but most favorite is Shaun of the Dead. They seemingly blended British comedy, suspense, horror, and of course paid homage to the classic Z word movies brilliantly. It never fails to satisfy my occasional need for chaos. And finally, Dino says...
From the podcast, I always have to say it. It's a thing.
Sorry. Did you want to read this one?
No, go ahead. I don't have it.
Dino says... Hot Fuzz. Yes, I thought I was going into a buddy cop satire, but ended up seeing far more folky horror buddy cop comedy. Yes.
Well, thank you everybody for your listener feedback. We had a bunch more, but as always, we cut them down. And if you don't answer why, we're not going to read it on air. Sorry. Wow. Ooh, that was a moment. Okay, so let's jump on
why.
Our main event.
Now it's time for the main event.
So for this version of the main event, we are doing our three favorite quotes or parts of the Cornetto trilogy. We went all over the freaking board, guys. You are welcome. So I'm going to start with number 3, and mine is a quote from Hot Fuzz. And it's between Nick Frost and Simon Pegg. He goes, "Have you ever shot your gun in the air and gone, ah? No, I've never shot my gun in the air and went, ah." And that was the beginning of their relationship, and I loved it so much. Because that's kind of that whole, if you want to be a cop because you watch TV, that's what you think you're going to get. So let's start with you, Mr. Giorgetti.
At number 3, my number 3. First of all, let me just say it's so hard to pick just 3 because I love all these movies, but I have to go with whenever they say Krusty Jugglers or The Greater Good in Hot Fuzz, because it's just so ridiculous. And I've somehow found a way to incorporate saying Krusty Jugglers into my vocabulary. Because it's fun. So
just at random moments.
Normal conversation.
Yeah. Because it's just so joyful to see people's reactions to that.
Nice.
You know?
See, what's nice is you can weed out the ones who actually know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's who you can be friends with.
That's how we find our people.
Fun
Tyler?
fact. Sorry.
go
That's
ahead.
actually one thing that Simon Pegg and Nick Frost bonded over was something like that, an inside joke.
It's funny.
Nice. Tyler.
My number 3 would be the bathroom fight in World's End. It was
Yeah.
just so brutal. They could do so much more since they
'Cause
weren't
it was blue.
humans.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's blue. You know, they could just take it so far.
That would have made the
rotten.
rating harder to get if they would have been in red.
Yeah.
Because it was that.
And the
Yeah,
look
ripping
of
off heads
confusion
and-
on his face the entire time. They spent 15 minutes trying to figure out what was going on. It was great.
You know what part of that cracks me up is when the disembodied or disheaded body starts getting up and the head is in between his legs. It's like right up his butt. And I don't know why, but I laugh so hard when I see that scene.
Because we're children. So
Yes. Fart jokes, they're always the best. Christina?
Indeed.
I'm sorry.
Hey,
so-
fart jokes, Christina.
You didn't pick up on it though. I said I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Sean.
Oh, God. I was
in,
giving it to you. I just had to wait a minute on it.
in Hot Fuzz, when he's very passionately trying to defend his dad, even though he knows he's wrong, and he says he's not Judge Judy, an executioner. that was such a Gen X moment, but it just kills me every single time.
That was a great scene. Actually, that was on my list too, because that is such a good. It's just it's so pure. You know, it's yeah. Michelle?
Shaun of the Dead, which Wendell kind of touched on earlier, was in the garden scene where they've got the records, but like the quote there just kills me when they're flipping through and he's like, "Purple Rain, no. Sign of the Times, definitely not. Batman soundtrack, throw it."
Which everybody feels that way.
Yeah, everyone feels that way. Yeah, so that's yeah.
Is it bad I still own that CD?
You would.
Shut up. Okay. My number 2, and this is a scene, not a quote, but when the building goes through Timothy Dalton's jaw, it's just so gruesome and so weird and so gross. And it's that moment that you look and you're like, wow, he was James Bond. Now he's a Bond villain. I thought it was a nice little full circle of the career, but that it's horrible. I think that is literally one of the worst things I've ever seen on film.
Well, and the fact that he kept talking.
It hurts. It hurts.
Ow.
Some ice cream.
As the rapper goes flying by at that moment, actually.
Yes.
Mr. Giorgetti?
My number 2 moment is from Shaun of the Dead. The whole entire bit, whenever they reference the gun at the Winchester, and they're like, "No, it's a fake," and then they pick up the gun when the zombies are trying to get in, and it's a real gun.
After they didn't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Which was the best part. And we're all Americans. We're like, yeah, no, I'd know what that was or not. They're all English. What do you want from them?
I tried.
Tyler?
All right. Number 2, I had smashing his way through the park in Shaun of the Dead.
So with the cricket bat?
With the cricket bat.
Yes.
It was his time to finally shine and show that he could lead the way. He could take charge, try to press his ex-girlfriend at the time. And being a zombie fan, smashing zombies always ranks high on my list. So
In real life, how much fun would that be?
right?
Just saying.
As long as you don't know him.
Terrifying, but totally fun.
Yeah, it's sort of like a
It
roller
was
coaster.
as easy as they made it look. I mean,
Oh yeah, I mean it's like a tap. Peek.
yeah.
It'd be like one of those rage rooms you can pay for.
There you go.
What movie did I just watch that in? Anyway, okay, go ahead, Christina.
So mine changed a little bit, and it's Tyler's fault. So when you were talking about the bathroom scene, it's when they come out and he's like, "We got blood on our hands." No, it's ink. We got ink on our hands. That is just hilarious to me because it's almost like they're making extra sure we know it's not as bad as it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that just cracks me up. And they go from place to place all covered in ink, and they think nobody's going to notice. So that just cracks me up.
And no one does.
I know, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, we want to make you just like us.
It's high school. Michelle, go ahead.
Very, very simple one from Hot Fuzz. By the power of Grayskull.
Oh, such a great line.
Every single time I lose it.
Every single time.
By the power of
Such a good line.
Grayskull.
I don't even know what to say. That's a great line. Okay, so my number one, this is another Hot Fuzz one, and this is, again, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Being stabbed was the single most painful experience of my life. And Nick Frost says, so what was the second most painful? That was me. That is me right there. Because I would say that, and it's it so put him in his place. Because he had the table at that moment. And Nick Frost, in a very innocent way, so was the second most. You don't have an answer for that.
That's what's so endearing about him, is he is so innocent. He's honestly just asking.
And I
Like
think what
Judge
I loved-
like Judge Judy and Education.
I think what I liked too on his face was almost like this moment. Like that was the second most painful. The way he looks at him, it's like right now.
Nice. Mr. Giorgetti?
You know what's coming from Hot Fuzz at number one. The entire
bullet?
bit.
Sorry.
The entire YARP bit, which was the guy who played Michael is the Hound from Game of Thrones, and
Oh my gosh.
I didn't make that realization
Yeah.
until like a year ago. After we were watching it, like we do
I
every
was
year, and I'm
today
like,
years old.
I was like, that's the Hound from Game of Thrones, and I was just like, this is another reason why it's the best movie ever made. But you know, when he goes to the hotel room to like, take care of Simon Pegg, and then Simon Pegg beats him, and James Bond's like, he's not going to get up again, is he? And he goes, "Narp, good." And then it's just like, it's so brilliant. The whole thing's brilliant.
Yes,
It's-
it
I love
is.
how you just called him James Bond.
I mean, I couldn't.
was!
Skinner. That's his
I
name.
know.
He's James Bond.
Yeah.
Skinner.
Tyler. Would you like to yours next, Tyler?
All right, number
In
one.
the back, Tyler. Go ahead,
All right,
Tyler.
my number one.
Let's hear your number
Nice.
one, Tyler. Okay, I'm done.
All right.
Oh. See what we have to put up with.
Oh.
So yeah, when Nick Frost's character in Hot Fuzz, I keep forgetting his name. When he finally got to live out his dream of reenacting the Point Break scene where he fires his gun into the air, that was magical.
I love how you see it coming too. You're like, oh,
yeah.
Here it comes.
But honestly, it wasn't forced because, I mean, that was a real moment. If they wouldn't have mentioned it before,
Mhm.
you would have still seen him do that because what are you gonna do? Shoot your dad?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't forced, but yeah, it was like, oh, like you get excited, like he's gonna do it. He gets his chance to fire the gun in the air and go, oh.
It's like
That's what's so great about it.
it's a gun pop.
Finally.
Wow, YouTube's gonna hate us. Okay, Christina.
Okay, so I have Shaun of the Dead will always have my heart. It is, to me, I'm sorry, the best of the three. I love the zombies. I love the humor. I love the powerful emotions. But my favorite scene, and it's my husband's fault, is when they come out of the bar and they're completely wasted and it's dark and the zombies coming towards them and they're like, oh. And the reason it's so funny to me is my husband had to have abdominal surgery and he couldn't get to the bathroom by himself. And so my daughter was helping him. And he's got his hands on her shoulders and she's walking him and he's like, and all of a sudden she just looks at me. She's like 14 years old and this big smile breaks out and she's like, and he's like, oh, and he has no idea why this is so funny to us.
That's like the proudest parent moment ever. I think that had to be.
So wrong, but so right.
It's when you know you've done it right.
Nice.
Well done.
Yeah. Michelle?
When so Hot Fuzz, when Danny and Angel are in the car, and it's the very beginning, and he's kind of just, giving him the lay of the land, and he's just eating his ice cream, and so then the Lurch guy is walking towards them, and they're talking about it, and he's like, so Danny's just telling him, oh, he lives with his mom and his sister, and Angel's like, are they as big as he is? And he's like, and just like without a beat, he's just eating his ice cream. He's like, they're the same person. And just, but it's like one of those moments where
pay attention
so
kids.
fast, and you're just like, wait, did he just say what I think?
And you don't catch it on your first view. You're probably not going to catch it on your second.
Yeah, I don't think I did. I think I caught it like the second time or second time I watched it. Like, holy crap, he just said what I think he said.
And it all makes sense.
Yeah.
So my recommendation to everybody is watch all three of these movies again. Turn on the subtitles, and put your phone down and just do it.
Yeah.
This is how movies are supposed to be. Movies are supposed to completely suck you into their world.
We treat movies at my house just like we do in the theater. No phones.
That's a good idea.
As
Nice.
you should.
Okay, and that was a show, kids. Oh, this was a fun episode.
Yarp.
Yeah.
Yarp.
Subscribe, do all that stuff. Share us with your friends. It means like a lot to us when you do. Go to our Patreon because we have new stuff going behind the paywall now, which is pretty freaking cool, which makes me happy. And go to the website www.iheartgeekshow.com. Use the com. We paid extra for it. That is like on. I can't say it any other way. And until next time, I'm Dub. I'm here with Michelle and Chris and Tyler and Christina. I think I got that right. And keep on geeking on, kids.
Let's boo boo.
Yarp.
You have been listening to the latest episode of the I Heart Geek Show. Make sure you visit our website at www.iheartgeekshow.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you check us out on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And keep on geeking on to all of you geek rock stars.